So afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just gonna do a quick video of the garden here. Pepper plants are finally starting to produce. As you can see, I've got one good one here. We took one off for lunch. There's a couple more that are underneath here. We're finally starting to get going. I had a lot of trouble with peppers this year, at least the green bell peppers. They really didn't want to take off. I ended up sticking a frame out of pallet lumber around it and putting some dirt on there to hold the dirt. I was having trouble with it washing off due to the rains. These are my Roma tomatoes. As you can tell, the plants are doing very, very well. We've already collected probably 24 Romas. We'll be making paste with those tomorrow. I went and took pallet wood and then just basically built a frame here, stuck it around. This is all out of pallet wood. The only thing that I did purchase was nails here and then twine to be able to create a frame for it. If you are going to grow out of straw bales, you absolutely need to give your tomatoes a grow grid to be able to grow up, around, and through, to give them the structural support, because they are going to grow very well. They're going to get a lot of height and mass to them, and you're going to have trouble with the stems starting to crack and break on you. They really need that support, and if you give them the support, they don't have to put so much energy into building strong stalks, and they're able to put more energy into producing tomatoes for you. These over here are some more Romas. I have beef steaks in here. They're that very unique kind of wide shape of those. And then these are pink ladies and then orange tomatoes. My pink ladies have gotten huge in height, but as you can see, I'm starting to get some yellowing. They're not getting enough of something, and I've got to figure that out. Double stems down there, they're doing really well. What I'll end up doing with this box is I will cut those twines that you see here that are holding the straw bales together at the end of the growing season. Then I'll mash that straw down, and then I'll put new bales right across the top of it. And my plan is every 3 years what I will do is recycle by taking out all the decomposed straw and mush out of here, putting that into some of my other beds, and starting again with new straw. So composting bin and a grow bin at the same time gives me good soil that I can use on other projects. My peas are done for the year. However, here in a week or so, I'm going to plant my next batch so that I can have a nice fall crop of peas. Strawberries are doing pretty well in these crates here. The only thing that I would change with these is putting a greater level of straw all the way around and then a thicker level of dirt in there. I was originally going to do rain gutters, but I decided to do these milk crates that I can screw through, because we've been having some pretty severe winters, and I think we're on a cold trend for the next few years, and I think our winters are going to be pretty rough. So what I wanted to do was to be able to have these, take them down off of the poles and put them into a pile of straw and preserve them over the winter, protect them from the cold. Now, these are our zucchinis. They started producing really well, and I have picked off probably a half a dozen of them, but then I had some sort of boar get into them and really attack them. The plants are still hanging on, but they're not producing quite like they were. Now, my Hungarian wax hot peppers are doing extremely well, and the jalapenos are even starting to kick in pretty good. My bell peppers, like I said, just in comparison are doing nothing, but I should have an excellent crop of the jalapeno waxes to store and can for the winter. Now, I do have one good one right in there, the jalapeno. That should make a nice tasty dinner here sometime next week. Now, this is my potato box. As you can see, it's doing pretty good. If you count the layers up, it's basically 2 weeks per layer. And so they've been growing pretty well. I definitely need to put a new layer on. I've had a very busy couple of weeks and I haven't been able to get out here. But the plants are starting to come over the sides. So I will need to put another layer on here and get these buried so they can start producing for me. Now, you do have to be gentle when you're burying here. I found that these stems are while they look sturdy, are not very sturdy, and they will crack pretty easy. What I've found so far, and I've had something trying to bore into here and get down in there, is I'm alternating layers of soil and peat moss and things like that, and letting it get in there with my straw to create good hollows and be able to fill my plants in. You do have to be careful with the straw when you're doing it, because as it decomposes, it creates a high level of nitrogen that these potatoes do not like. So be careful with how much straw you're putting in there. I do recommend that you get a lot more soil and peat moss in, or you can end up having some dead plants or some stem rot, which is never a good thing. You can see here it's kind of dark. That's stem rot. Don't want that. So soil is so far the preferential, with peat moss mixed in to give it a nice lightness. But you can see some of the nitrogen did get into killing my plants off. This was my multi-season bed. The carrots are ready to harvest. I will be harvesting those this week and preserving them. Probably end up blanching and freezing the majority. The romaine's pretty much all gone. We did let a few heads go to seed. Now my red onions, I've got them, and they're all about yay big around, and they're not really producing. A problem that I ran into was the weed level was getting too high, and they just all pretty much started to keel over on me and die off. I have one good seed head. We'll probably harvest those this week. If I was to do anything, I would probably not put the romaine in with the onions this next year. I'll probably keep those separate. This is will be a hugelkultur box. Right now just the wood's in here, and there is some black walnut that's mixed in, so I'm just letting it sit out in the air and rot over the winter. Then next summer I will start filling it full of dirt and breaking this down and making it a real hugelkultur bed full of dirt and growing plants. This is probably where I'll end up doing my zucchinis and whatnot next summer. Now, looking at the trellising, as you can see, I just grabbed any old fencing that I had. Sugar babies are actually starting to produce. As I mentioned in my earlier video, I was having a lot of trouble getting any sort of melons, but I'm starting to get some. I've got two that actually have some decent capacity, and there's a couple of them that are hanging around here that are just starting to form. There's two over here as well. Now, my other melons are, they're just kind of heads and whatnot, but not really much going on. There's one honeydew there. I've got another honeydew coming, and then there's one down in here, but I'm getting more plant than anything. The big thing that I would change is I'd end up doing this like I did the tomato boxes earlier the year, and creating a box around there and then putting the straw in and then covering it. But I had ran into issues with the city, so I had to focus on that. Now my pumpkins are starting to grow, and I'm starting to get some on here, so we should get a good 4 or 5 pumpkins. And I didn't do that much. We don't eat much pumpkin, but I wanted to get a couple going just for the obligatory pies. Now, this one here is it's got himself a real funky shape, and then of course I do have my one lonely cantaloupe over here growing, and it's just the only one that decided to come up this year. Now my Bostling picklings are just doing phenomenal. As you can see, they're already up over there. This is a 8-foot trellis, and by my best estimation, some of my vines are over 13 feet long. But I've been getting cucumbers galore. We've already put away about 14 quarts of pickles and had innumerable cucumber salads. Now, I'm starting to get into some issues with them crowding each other for space and getting water flow. I would probably put less cucumbers on it next year so that I don't have the plants overlapping so much. We don't eat a lot of cucumbers because of my illness, but it's an experiment. It works pretty well. Now, I decided as a comparison experiment That potato box there, that's the one that we're burying the plants. I've got one over here I'm not burying the plants. I want to get a comparison between the two of them as to which produces more. Just doing it the old traditional method, potato in the dirt, just let it go, then dig them all up and see what happens, versus that one where it's the boxes. Now my Brussels sprouts, still don't know what happened here. Plants just grew up. It's the first year I've ever tried them, and they're just not doing that well. And then my summer squash, we had issues with some blight over here as well, and then some of the borers. We have harvested a few off of there, but it's just, you know, it's a learning experience. There's probably 2 or 3 in there that are probably ready for harvest. Now this is the one that I showed you that I made a grow box out of a pallet and then just stuck framing on there. It doesn't work so well for lettuce. The issue I ran into is the water runs out too quickly, and so it doesn't stay in there long enough, and so it took a lot of watering. If I'm going to do this again, it'll probably be Mediterranean type plants that don't require near as much water and maintenance, because it was just way too much. And as we all know, I like to garden in the laziest and most efficient way. So there's what's going on with that. Now I've been collecting old windows off of Craigslist, and I've got a fairly decent stack. I found some, you can't see them in there, but a guy had a garage full of old windows from some projects, and most of them are storm windows, and then he had a box of glass that I was able to acquire. And my plan is to eventually turn these all into a greenhouse in my side yard. So that's gone pretty well. Oh, there's the swing set that I built for my daughter for her 2nd birthday. I did build a platform around here on the end that I'll put a sandbox underneath, and then I'm going to put a climbing frame up here on this side and a slide so that she can have, you know, something fun to do with that. It's not gardening, but it's good for a daddy's heart to give his daughter some nice projects. So I've got my plants going along here, my thyme and then my rosemary and basil. I actually had both of these in my lunch today. Other projects that are going on, those are my piles of scrap wood and pallet wood that I acquired off of the internet. I do have some milk crates left over that probably next year I'm going to put in more strawberries with. And we do like strawberries around our house. That's stuff that's either split or it's got too big of knots or whatnot that'll end up in our burn pile. Now, a couple of other things. This here is a PVC pipe frame that I got from a local grocery store that closed that had bouncing balls in there. And I'm going to end up turning that into a chicken tractor, wrapping it basically with chicken wire and having that to have some of my chickens in. We will be doing chickens next year, so I'll let you know how that project goes. The other things that we've got going on, I have another brush box back here that's starting to be a compost pile. Yes, I know it's messy, but it was kind of an emergency thing, so we put it together. But this will end up being a compost pile, and that will end up being buried in dirt before the week is out. We've got some other things. This is a big old hollow tree here. As you can see, we cut it off. My dream is to put a cone roof on top of that and then build a kid's castle around the thing and make it a, you know, kind of like a tower on one end. We do have some hollow logs that I will end up turning into planting containers that are just kind of cool, rotted out logs. There's 3 of them that I have that will make really cool planting containers that I'll be able to use for other things this next year. Last thing that I'll show you, this is the 12-foot pallet fence that I did. Basically I took 8 and 12-foot pallets and just tacked them together and stuck a couple of T-stakes in the ground. Now with this here, as you can see, I just screwed a board flush between the pallet and the T-stake to hold it upright, and that works pretty well to keep the illegal dumpers from dumping all over the yard. So that's the basics of where we're at right now. It is July 27th, so we're over halfway through the growing season, and I just wanted to give you kind of an update of what's happening with my projects. I ended up not doing a barrel for the strawberries. I kind of wished I had, but as I mentioned before, we had trouble with the city over some tree limbs that we had and some trees that we took down, so I had to go that route right there. Now, next year I'll have some other really cool things. And we did fence in across the front there. I did go fancy with that using boughten lumbers, but I needed something good and solid that didn't take a lot of time to put up, and I was able to put that in over a weekend, and then I put a gate in over there as well so that we could keep the neighborhood kids out when we weren't here, because we did have some things that were ending up disappearing. I did get a large collection of PVC pipe from a lady that she was throwing it away. So this will probably end up over the winter in some projects, probably in the greenhouse as a water carrying system. So I don't have to water each plant. I can simply put it in one pipe and let it carry it across to the plants. But we'll see how that goes. So that's all. Just wanted to show you a quick video of what's going on in the Gifford garden. Thanks.